We are counting down the 7 most harrowing moments when Sherpas risked everything to save climbers in the Himalaya and paid the ultimate price. From rescues at the edge of survival to invisible labors that go unnoticed by the world, these incidents reveal just how much danger Sherpas shoulder so others can attempt the summit. Some stories end in triumph, others in heartbreak, and a few changed the industry forever. Which act of courage stands as the most costly of all? Let's begin with number 7, where a historic first on Everest was only possible because Sherpas accepted risks most would never see. Number 7, Everest, May 25, 2001. Erik Weihenmayer becomes the first blind person to stand on the summit, but the path he follows is built by Sherpas risking far more than headlines reveal. Kami Tenzing, the team's sirdar, recruits and leads a skilled Sherpa crew, each one fixing lines, hauling loads, and guiding Weihenmayer through the Khumbu Icefall and up the highest camps. For weeks, they navigate crevasses and shifting ladders, adapting their pace and communication for a climber who cannot see. Every technical section, every step, means extra exposure for the Sherpas, who shoulder responsibility not just for Weihenmayer's life, but for the entire team's safety. The summit is reached, and all return without injury. Yet, in the glow of a historic first, the world rarely credits the Sherpas whose unseen labor and calculated risk make such feats possible. Number 6, Annapurna, May 2010. Spanish climber Tolo Calafat is stranded at 7,600 meters alone in the thin air above the north face. Night falls, and a Sherpa rescuer pushes upward, crossing into the death zone on foot, while a rescue helicopter hovers far below its ceiling, unable to reach the stranded climber. The wind howls, snow deepens, and each step becomes a gamble with exhaustion and altitude sickness. Despite every effort, night searches, oxygen pushed beyond protocol, and a doctor flown for a last assessment, no one reaches Calafat in time. He dies where the mountain flattens all hope. In the aftermath, debate rages about responsibility and the limits of rescue, but for the Sherpa who risked everything in the darkness, the outcome is a silent burden. Sometimes, even heroism can't overcome the mountain's edge. Number 5, Everest, May 2016. Maria Strydom collapses near Camp 4 just below the south summit, her body succumbing to altitude sickness. The season's headlines fade, but for the Sherpas, the ordeal is only beginning. Over several days, a rotating team from 7 summit treks hauls her body down nearly 1,500 vertical meters, across steep snowfields, crevasses, and shifting weather. Each step demands more than strength. It requires oxygen, careful rope work, and a willingness to risk exhaustion and frostbite. The physical toll is matched by the emotional burden, knowing their work brings closure to a family far away, yet rarely earns public credit. Coordination with helicopter pilots and base camp managers stretches the process further, as weather windows close and open without warning. For the Sherpas, recovery is an invisible labor, exhausting, dangerous, and often overlooked, yet essential, so families can grieve with dignity, and the mountain can release one more soul. Number 4, K2, August 2008. A serac collapses high on the bottleneck, slicing away the fixed ropes and leaving dozens stranded above 8,200 meters. In the darkness, Pemba Gyalje Sherpa steps into the void, descending the near vertical ice without a rope. Knowing a single misstep means death, he moves through the shattered route again and again, searching for survivors, coaxing the stunned and frostbitten to keep moving, and leading them through the most lethal stretch on the mountain. 11 climbers die that night, yet several owe their lives to Pemba's judgment and nerve. His repeated solo traverses, sometimes guiding others with nothing but voice and touch, become legend among high-altitude rescuers. Later, survivor accounts credit Pemba with saving lives no one else could have reached. For these actions, He is named Adventurer of the Year, but recognition comes only after the toll is counted. On K2, when rescue seems impossible, Sherpas like Pemba become the last hope, risking everything so that others might descend alive. Number 3. Everest, May 22, 2019. The summit ridge is packed. Over 250 climbers inch forward in a single file, oxygen masks hissing, boots scraping ice near the Hillary Step. Don Cash, an American client, collapses just after reaching the top. His 2 Sherpa guides drop to their knees, performing CPR at nearly 8,800 meters, while the queue grinds to a halt around them. They switch out oxygen bottles, massage his chest, and plead for space. But the line cannot move. Everyone is trapped by the crush of bodies and the razor-thin ledge. Minutes stretch into hours as the guides fight for his life. But the death zone's cold, and the logjam win out. Cash dies waiting for a gap that never comes. The guides are left to descend, carrying the weight of another loss. The viral images of that day, endless lines of climbers, motionless figures slumped in harnesses, spark outrage. But for Sherpas, it is the same old story. Forced to perform impossible rescues, hemmed in by crowds and the invisible pressure of a system that values permits over protection. On Everest, when the summit window opens, it is Sherpas who bear the cost of every delay, every miscalculation, every life lost in the queue. Number 2. Everest, Spring 1996. Ngawang Topche Sherpa wakes each morning to a persistent cough and a chest that burns with every breath. But the loads must keep moving up the mountain. HAPE, high-altitude pulmonary edema, seeps into his lungs, robbing him of oxygen, even as he hauls gear for Scott Fisher's Mountain Madness team. The financial reality is simple. Stop working, and his family loses a season's income. So Ngawang keeps climbing, his illness masked by duty and the quiet pressure not to jeopardize the expedition. By April 20, his condition is obvious to those around him. Breathlessness, weakness, a body failing in the thin air above base camp. Only when he can no longer walk is he dragged down and evacuated by helicopter to Kathmandu. There, in a hospital bed, he slips into a coma, dying on June 6th. His passing barely registers in the headlines dominated by Western clients lost in the May storm. Yet Ngawang's story reveals a deeper, often invisible cost, the silent deaths that happen far from the summit, when economic need and systemic neglect push Sherpas to risk everything for someone else's ascent. In the shadow of Everest, not every tragedy is marked by avalanches or crowds. Sometimes it's a single man, working sick, who pays with his life. And finally, in first place, Everest, April 18, 2014. At dawn, teams of Sherpas thread their way into the Khumbu Icefall, ferrying loads and fixing lines so the climbing season can begin. The air is still, but above them, a block of ice the size of a house breaks from Everest's west shoulder, plunging directly onto the route. In seconds, 16 Sherpas are buried or swept away, the deadliest single day in Everest's history at the time. None of the victims are clients. All were working to make the mountain accessible for others, crossing the icefall for the second, third, or even 30th time that season. The aftermath is immediate and raw. Base camp is transformed by grief and outrage. Sherpa families mourn not just sons and fathers, but the loss of their community's backbone. Protests erupt over compensation. At first, the government offers just $400 per family, a sum so low it sparks a work stoppage across the mountain. For days, climbing halts as Sherpas demand higher insurance, safer working conditions, and respect for the risks they face. The season collapses under the weight of collective anger and mourning. In the months that follow, insurance minimums are raised and promises of reform echo from Kathmandu. But many families still wait for full compensation. The 2014 Icefall tragedy lays bare the true cost of Himalayan climbing. Sherpas bear the greatest risk, often for the smallest reward. Their labor and loss open the way for others' ambitions, yet their names fade quickly from the headlines. On Everest, the route is built on sacrifice, and the price is paid first by those whose stories are least likely to be told. From the unseen sacrifice of Ngawang Topche, who died quietly after supporting an Everest team, to the devastating 2014 Khumbu Icefall tragedy that claimed 16 Sherpa lives in a single morning, these 7 stories reveal the full spectrum of risk Sherpas face on the world's highest peaks. Across every entry, one pattern stands out. While Western climbers chase personal triumphs, it is Sherpas who shoulder the heaviest burdens, whether enabling historic summits, launching impossible rescues, or recovering the fallen in brutal conditions. The most shocking entries, like the mass casualty in the Icefall and the futile search for Tolo Calafat, underscore that even heroism has limits when confronting altitude and systemic neglect. What made each incident qualify for this list was a clear, often fatal cost paid by Sherpas in service to others. Together, these cases shatter the myth that climbing glory is an individual achievement. The real story of Himalayan mountaineering is written in the courage, sacrifice, and too often the loss of the Sherpas who make every ascent possible.